So we have Haley, Joey, myself, Ashleigh, and Alex here. We're just kind of talking about what fasting is and what that looks like for each of us. So I just want to ask you guys this question. What were your first thoughts when you found out that we were doing a church-wide fast for 21 days?
For me, I was like, dang, now I have to limit on what I'm going to eat because I really like food and I don't know what I'm going to give up.
That's okay. I think that's people's first initial thought most of the time. But it's actually pretty cool what God teaches you through a fast. So far, we're day 7 into the fast. What has God taught y'all so far through this process?
So me kind of rolling into this, I had some other stuff that recently just happened, and some things God just brought to my heart, and that this would just be a good time to reflect and to really lean into Him and try to get these things kind of squared away in my life. So
yeah, that's cool. So I think for me personally, I have just realized how much we as humans think about food versus God Himself. I wake up and I'm like, what's for breakfast? As soon as I have breakfast, I'm like, what's for lunch? And then I have lunch, what's for dinner? Just constantly having that thought. So have you guys ever fasted before? And if you did, what was that experience like for you?
I have, when I was a kid, and I done the Daniel fast and then 24-hour fasting, where it was 24 hours of fasting and then 12 hours where I could eat, and then 24 again. And it was honestly, since I was so young and I didn't understand, it was almost I don't want to say pointless, but it was it just didn't make sense in my mind then. I just don't think I was very well educated about it. So.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. If you don't know what fasting means, or if you're not educated on it, you're kind of like, why? Here around Relevant, we talk a lot about knowing the why behind the what. And if you don't know why you're fasting, then, why are you doing it? And that, unfortunately, that's with tons of things that the church has taught us. But I think the church now is doing a really good job of learning to explain it and how to explain it to kids on their level and students, and even us, young adults who maybe grew up unchurched and are now in a place where we are going to church regularly, and we're attending church and we're bought in. And it's a really cool thing to see young adults know why they're fasting, and it's not just, I'm going to do this because everyone else is doing it, So what does fasting mean to you guys?
So for me, fasting is kind of just a time to reflect and really lean into God, to know that He's enough, and to not depend on certain things in our lives that we happen to depend on, whether that be food, or that be a certain type of food, or it be social media, or for some people, video games, music. It doesn't matter. Whatever happens to be what you lean into most in your life, a cutting out of that really gives you time to reflect on what God's trying to do inside of your life. So.
Yeah, and I think too, we talk a lot about how people, young adults specifically, because those 18 to 30-year-olds, us, we're people who have grown up we've never really known a life without social media. I mean, when we're younger, we had some little things, but not really. But when we hit that tween, I mean, we were exposed to so many things. Mm-hmm. And so while social media is something that people add to their fast, our pastor also talks a lot about how it's not something that you would consider a fast solely by itself. So what are some things that you guys have decided to fast that's food related?
Personally, I have decided to fast dinner. So after 5 o'clock in the day, I don't eat again until I wake up the next day. And then I start that over.
How's it going?
I slipped up once. I was making some food for my family, just because, my mom was tired and I was just trying to help out. And then, I accidentally popped something in my mouth, and I'm like, oh no.
I'm not supposed to eat this. Yeah, actually, one of our pastors told us a story about this guy who one time he was fasting and all he wanted was Oreos. And so what he did, right? Oreos are my favorite, the lemon kind, double stuff, all of them. Just give them all to me, right? But he was craving Oreos, just craving something sweet. And so he just ate the Oreos, he chewed them up, and then he spit them out. And I'm like, dude, you're basically eating the Oreos.
Cheating.
What about you guys? What are y'all fasting?
I'm fasting meat. So I'm doing fruits and vegetables during the day.
Okay.
I've decided to do meats, junk food, because I have a tendency of getting on that junk food binge sometimes, especially this time of year after the holidays.
Yeah.
Whew. And then, of course, meat. And that's probably the biggest one for me because I'm a carnivore. So
Carnivore. Yeah. It's hard because you have people walking in here. I think one of the biggest challenges about fasting is everyone takes their own approach, and you have people taking different fast. And so when you're fasting and you're like, I'm not doing meat, and then your friend walks in with, not calling Alex out, but when your friend walks in with chicken, you're like, oh, God, I just want chicken so bad. But for me, I am doing fruits and veggies only, breakfast and lunch, and then at night I'm doing fruits and veggies, but I'm also adding in a protein, just a lean, I guess it's just like a lean chicken, lean meat, whether that's chicken, fish. I've done ground turkey, but that's just at night, just because I am in the process of making some new disciplines and working out and stuff. So I've just decided that's what I was going to do. So a question, you kind of mentioned you're like, I slipped up a little bit. We've talked about what we're fasting. How has the fast been going for you so far? Let's ponder that real quick.
it's a loaded question.
It is a loaded question.
Yeah. So I guess for me, it's been pretty good. I've been able to take away the distractions of like wanting to eat, I guess, because I have a tendency of, a lot of people eat out of boredom.
Yeah.
So I have a tendency to do that too. So when I'm bored, what I can do instead is I can just like turn to a devotional or turn to the Bible or just sit there and just think and reflect and pray. Just be like, you know what? I don't need this right now. Mm-hmm. I can turn to something else, and that being God. Or just, even turn to something else even healthier, so exercise, or even if I'm really hungry, turn to like a healthier snack or something that's more beneficial for my body. So
yeah. That's good. Haley?
For me, the first week, it was really hard. But now I find myself not as hungry, so my appetite is decreasing, which is really good. And I feel a lot healthier because I'm watching what I eat and what I put in my body.
Yeah.
And then also the same, like, when I get distracted or something like that, I just turn into God's Word and I read.
When you hear that little growl, you're like, okay, God,
yes.
I need you.
I need
you.
book,
Give me strength. Help me resist the Oreos. I think for me, this is my third fast that I've ever been a part of. And, I do believe it takes time, what we talked about, learning why you fast. And it takes time learning what to fast, and I think over time you need to challenge yourself some more, because each time, if you fast the same thing every time and you're like, I'm just going to cut sodas out every single time, you have to push yourself. But I also know that when you're first starting, maybe that is what you need to do, because it's your very first fast. So this one around, I do feel like it's been, I know the rhythm of fasting now that I didn't know that rhythm before, I don't think. And so I will say the third day, I was knocked out. My head hurt so bad. I was in my bed and I was like, God, I just need you.
I need Chick-fil-A hits.
Yeah, the craving for Chick-fil-A hits. You're like, I just want a milkshake. I just want everything. But it was actually really cool because I know the why. I was able to lean into God, and this fast I've had. I guess I just picked up the discipline of carrying a journal around with me. I'm in the process of really developing my character, and I have the tendency to say some things before I speak. And I just felt like during the fast, a discipline I wanted to pick up on was carrying a journal around, and every time I thought something, to write it down and read it before I said it. That I thought maybe would be like, what did she just say? One of those statements where people are like, whoa, you can't put that back in your mouth. So I've been able to do that, and that's also a really cool thing. It's really helped my relationship with Christ, and it's really grown my relationship with Christ, and it's been this fast has been really cool for me personally. And I'm excited because at the end of the fast, we have night of worship. Are you guys excited for that?
So excited
for night of worship. It's probably my favorite thing that the church does.
Yes. Why? Why is that your favorite thing?
Just worship has always meant so much to me, just because that is, personally for me, that is when I feel most in touch with God. That's just when I feel like he speaks to me the most.
Yeah.
So it's just always really special whenever we have a night specifically for worship.
Yeah.
I do.
And I remember at the last one too, we were able to see like a lot of people come in, and they were like, you saw chains breaking for people too. Like you just saw some people like they were kind of reserved in their seat and just kind of, I'm just gonna do my little worship, and then next thing you know, they're like hands raised, like just praising Jesus with everything they got. And it's just nice to see that transformation where people can kind of just let loose and just immediately have that connection to God, just like Alex was saying. So
yeah, it's one of my, like you said, one of my favorite things. For sure. Haley, you've never been able to be a part, so this is your first night of worship.
Yep, and I'm super excited.
It's going to be tons of fun. Well, as we close, and as we've talked about fasting and what that looks like, fasting, people fast for so many different reasons. Our church has chosen to do a fast corporately, just to lean into God as we go into this next season, as we're building a church, as we're just praying for God to do big things in 2019. But people also fast when they want something, they want to hear from God, or they're just leaning into God, or just refocusing their own minds. It doesn't necessarily have to be a corporate fast. You could do a fast at any point in the year by yourself. It doesn't have to be with your friends. It doesn't have to be with your church. You can do that completely by yourself. But one great example in the Bible is Jesus when he fasted for 40 days, and he was tempted so many times in the Bible by Satan. And Jesus, he teaches so much in this moment. Y'all, the willpower this guy has is insane, and he's just a walking example of what we need to be. And I think through this fast, we can just lean into God for strength, and we can lean into God just to be more like Jesus and to know him more. I think we've talked about this a lot, but we want to know Christ so well that whenever we're doing something that's not in alignment with him, we know it, and that muscle flex, and we're like, oh, that's not what we need to do. Like, I need to get back in alignment with God's word and continue doing what he wants me to do, not what I want to do. Right. And so I'm excited to see all the ways that our church responds to this fast, and to hear all the testimonies, and I'm excited for us to just close it up. And I'm proud of you guys, and thanks for joining in on the conversation.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Lead Now podcast. Please subscribe so that you are notified when the next episode is available. See you next time.